case you don't know me, my name's Jennifer Grace. I'm from Grit and Grace Art. You might have seen me on Facebook, Instagram, or TikTok, but if not, feel free to go give me a follow. But here I am on YouTube doing a long form tutorial on this beautiful 4-in-1 painting. Now, when I say it's a 4-in-1 painting, what I mean is there are 4 separate canvases that all come together to form one painting. My client and I came up with this concept together for a Christmas gift that she had for 3 friends and herself. This way, each one of them would get a painting, but when put together, all of the paintings would come together to be one, just like their close-knit friendship. I really loved the idea of this and the concept, and I would love to hear what you think about it in the comments. Now, I want to catch you up here with what I've been doing. I've been mixing some modeling paste. So I started off by mixing some pink, and then I went on to mixing the light blue. For both colors, I already had a bit of that color from previous projects. So what I did was I added more modeling paste to it. When doing this, just make sure to keep an eye on your color. You might need to add more paint to make sure you achieve the color that you are trying for. The more modeling paste that you mix in with it, the more of a whitish tone it will get when it dries. Now to take a look at the painting, I've started on one of the 4 canvases, and what I'm doing is creating a dominant color on each canvas. So as you can see, the first 3 petals were a magenta hot pink type color, and that will be the main color for that canvas. Then I wipe off my palette knife completely, and I've gone to a light pink type color. That will be the main color for the second canvas. Now in between, I'm also adding other petals to the other canvases. You'll see this a little more as I go. Here I'm starting the 3rd canvas, and I'm going with my very dark phthalo green. And again, I'm going to make sure I do the first 3 petals right at the front of the canvas, that color. And it's going to be a combination of that as well as the majority of the petals on that canvas will be that color. And those 2 things together will allow that canvas to have a dominant feel in that color. As you can see, I'm also taking the green now and adding it to the other 2 canvases because I have to clean my palette knife completely in between each color. I want to get as many green petals down as I can while I have green on my palette knife. I put this in slow motion here so you can see the bottom of the palette knife with the light blue on it before I place it down. Unfortunately, you can't see me putting these petals down very well because they're sort of stuck in the upper hand corner there. But I wanted to show you the bottom of the palette knife because that gives you a good idea of how much paint you should be putting on the bottom of your palette knife and what it should look like once it's loaded. If you go take a look at my previous long form tutorial videos, I do show you how to load the palette knife, and I will show you that more in upcoming videos as well. But in this video, the really key point and what made this painting much more complicated, you can see here I'm counting things out with my hand. It's how many petals of each color you can have and where you can place them, because there's only 4 colors. You can't have a pink over top of a pink, for example, or at least I was trying to avoid that in the design. So when I'm trying very carefully not to place a color on top of the same color or the same color beside the same color, I have to count things out very carefully and look at exactly how much paste I have and think about each petal I'm placing before I place it. When I started this, I hadn't considered that, and it became much more complicated than I expected. There was another close-up on the bottom of the palette knife. Hopefully that will help you out. And here I'm just cleaning up the edges a bit. I like my edges to be nice and crisp, and I'm placing the colors. So when I have the hot pink, I'm going to continue going with the hot pink on the different canvases, counting out where the petals should be to make sure that no petals are beside or below or on top of the same color. You can tell when I'm waving the palette knife around there a little bit that, again, I'm having to do a lot of counting. When placing the palette knife down, you want to put some pressure on it so the modeling paste can sort of squeeze out both sides. There's another look at the bottom of the palette knife. And then as you're doing it, you're going to pull back and keep the palette knife down. You do not lift up at the end. You keep the palette knife down, almost dragging it backward toward you. This was much more difficult with the top left painting, which is why it is turned around and it is not facing inward the same as the other ones. I'm sorry, I should have mentioned that earlier. It's because I am right-handed and it would be much too difficult to go over top of that bottom left painting with my left hand and try to place the petals. So I turned the painting around to make it much easier for myself. Unfortunately, when looking at it this way, it does not give you the complete picture of the way the painting will look, but it was much easier for me to do. So I'm going to put it into hyperlapse speed now, speed it up to just give you a general idea about the pattern and where these petals are being placed based on their color. Now, the other thing you want to make sure is that you're trying to keep all of these petals the same size. So when you're applying them to the canvas, you want to use the same amount of pressure for each one. Now, when you're doing the edges or corners or bottom, there's a few ways to do that. You could put less thick paint on your palette knife and just use the amount that you've put on it. Or you could still load the palette knife normally and just use the tip of it. Here we have the finished painting. There we go, all turned around. And these are the wet results to take a look at. It is so shiny because it is wet and the colors are nice and vibrant. They do dry a bit darker, you'll see in just a second. Here are the dry results. Do you notice a big shift in color? It's also right beside a window, so that might help brighten things up a little bit. But acrylic paints do dry darker, and that's often the same with modeling paste. Here's a nice look at the points on the inside. Do you see how sharp those points are? That's something I like to do in my work, is to keep them nice and sharp and clean. No joke, they have actually drawn blood when I've been poked by them by accident. Here is how the painting was intended to be hung, just like that, but you can hang it like this as well. There's a few different ways you can hang it. And the next one here, we have all points going in the same direction, which looks really nice. This one is the opposite of how it was intended, but I think it still looks great. Also here you'll see that I've now painted the canvases and the painting is finally complete. Let me know in the comments what you think of this one. I hope you like it and I hope you found this tutorial helpful. Please subscribe so you can see all my future videos and make sure to hit that notification bell so you get notified when I post them. Thank you.